everyone. Today I'm going to go over lesson 6-4 in our everyday math program. This one is going to be about line plots, okay? So I'm going to teach you about line plots. We're going to work with them a little bit, and you'll be able to use them and gather some information. So let's get started. So in this unit, you're going to, well, not just this whole unit, in this lesson, you're going to be able to create line plots to display measurement data in fractions of a unit. Okay, you're going to use operations, which means subtracting and adding, with fractions to solve problems based on the information in the line plots. Before we get started with that, I'm going to do a little bit of warm up, something you haven't seen in a little while, just to get your brain flowing, okay? So let's do a little bit of mental math and talk about common denominators, okay? Now you're not going to solve these right now. We're just going to work together to find out what possible common denominators we could use in order to solve them, okay? So for number one, I've got my fractions 5/6 and 2/3. So I'm going to look at my denominator, which is my bottom number, okay? And I'm going to think, what could a common denominator be for 6 and 3? So there's a few ways you could do this. You can list the multiples, right? All of the multiples of 6 and all of the multiples of 3. Or you could do something called the quick common denominator, which is just to multiply 6 and 3. You would get 18, so you know that 18 could be a very possible common denominator. Or you can look at this and you can say, does 6 go into 3? No. Does 3 go into 6? Yes, 2 times. So you could have a couple different denominators for this. Okay, you could have 6, 12, or 18. So if you thought of any of those, you are correct. Okay, let's look at number 2. I've got 4/7 and 3/4. This one's a little easier because if I look at this and I say, oh, 7 can't go into 4 and 4 can't go into 7, I'm going to just use my quick common denominator and I'm going to multiply these two numbers, okay? 7 times 4 is 28, so I know that 28 is a common denominator. There we are. Okay, I hope this is bringing back some memories of our fraction unit. Let's look at number 3. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. You probably already saw that. All right, I've got 5/7 and 11/9. Oh boy. Okay, don't worry about that being an improper fraction because we're not solving anything right now. We're just finding a common denominator. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, well, 7 can't go into 9 and 9 can't go into 7. So let's just multiply those together and we get 63. Our common denominator is 63. All right, we've got 12 and 9. So similar there, right? I know that 12 can't go into 9 and I know 9 can't go into 12. If I was to list multiples of 12 and multiples of 9, I would come to a number that both of those do go into. Okay, and that number is 36. So I know that 12 can go into 36 and I know that 9 can go into 36. But I also could do that quick common denominator and multiply those two. So when you multiply 12 and 9, you get 108. Okay. I know I'm kind of talking you through this. This is just a recording, which is why you can't answer me. But, you know, if you do join me for the live lesson, we will go over these two together. All right, 4 and 8. I can just look at this and I say, oh, I know that 4 goes into 8, right? 2 times. So I could say that my common denominator is 8, or again, I can do my quick common denominator, multiply them, and know that I would get 32. All right, and then number 6, 4 and 5, again, 4 times 5 is 20, okay? You could even go higher. Both of them also go into 40, but that's that. All right, so just a little bit of a brain warm up, and then let's get started with line plots. Okay, so line plots are a type of graph in which data points are represented by X's or other marks. You're going to typically see X's used to mark those. X's are placed above a number line to show how often each number appears. Our data set would be all of the lengths of our pencils. So in class, I normally would have you measure your pencil and then we would take data on that. But obviously we're not in class. So I just kind of put your names on my list and I gave you some pencil lengths, okay? I'm going to assume that your pencils are this length. I've got me, Alexa, Tyler, Drake, Chris, Sydney, Carmela, Grayson, and I added Miss DeSico in there too. So these were our pencil lengths, okay? Some of them were a little shorter than others. I know Tyler, if we were going to use Jeffrey, oh my goodness, he would, your original Jeffrey would be very short, right? But I gave you a nice new fresh pencil at 8 inches. Okay. So here's my pencil, okay? And you will see your lengths and then mine. And I pretended to measure the length of your pencil to the nearest ½ inch. So what that means, if I'm talking about inches, I could say 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5. So I measured it to the nearest ½ inch. So here's mine, okay? And mine's just about at 6.5. So I just rounded it a little bit up, okay? And there's my pencil length. Okay, so how can we determine the scale to create our line plots? So let's take a look. Here's our chart again with all of our pencil lengths. So let's think about our line plot and what that can look like. So what's the largest number in our data set? Well, I'm going through, I've got 6.5, 6.5, 8, 5, 6, 5.5. Okay, my largest number there is 8 inches. Okay. Our largest is 8. Let's look at all of these numbers again, and we're going to look at the smallest number. So 6, 6, 8, 5, 6, 5.5. Okay, so it looks like my smallest is going to be 5 inches. What's a good number for our line plot to begin with? Well, the thing is, you don't want to start it, right at your smallest number. You want to kind of have a couple numbers before that, and you want to maybe end it longer than what your longest pencil is, right? So I wouldn't stop my line plot at 7. I couldn't do that because I've got a pencil that's 8 inches and I've got a pencil that's 7.5 inches. Okay, so a good number I'm going to say is maybe 2. We'll say 2 inches. That seems fair. A good number for our line plot to end with, I don't know, what do you think? 9.5, 10? I put 9.5 just for this lesson. So we measured our pencils to the nearest ½ inch. So we should label our line plot every ½ inch, right? There'd be no point in me measuring it for every hole. I wouldn't make a graph with 1, 2, 3, 4 because I've got some pencils that have halves in here, okay? So we're going to measure it to every ½ inch. Okay, so that's our stuff. Study this for a second. We took a look at our our longest pencil, our smallest pencil. Okay, we have that information there. Now let's do what we're going to do with it. So here's my chart. Mrs. Bryant's class pencil lengths. Okay, I've got my numbers here just to show you how I graphed that. This is my title. Okay, every line plot needs to have a title because we have to know what you're graphing, right? What you're keeping track of. All line plots have to have labels. Okay, so here are my labels. And this is going to be inches, right? We know that this is inches. I've got my 2, my 2.5, my 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. Do you see how I did by every ½ inch? And I went all the way to 9.5. I could have gone farther, but I just figured 9.5 was good. Okay, and then I have my data points. So take a look at what I did. I have mine, Mrs. Bryant, 6.5. So I went ahead and I put an X at 6.5. Alexa was also 6.5. I put another X on top of there. This is mine. This is Alexa's. I had Tyler with 8-inch pencil. I moved, here's his right here for 8 inches, right? Drake's had a 5-inch pencil, and I put his right here for 5. Do you see how I'm doing this? Chris was 6 inches. His pencil is right here for 6. Sydney, she had 5.5. So here's hers. And I just sort of marked them right where their numbers match, right? Carmela also had a 6.5-inch pencil. So I stuck her right here at 6.5. Now you'll see that there are 3 X's here because look. Sorry, my screen always does that. You'll see that I've got 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. I had 3 pencils that measured 6.5 inches, so that's why there are 3 X's there. Okay, I had Grayson with 7 inches, here he is, and Mrs. Tasico had a 7.5 inch pencil. So remember, a line plot shows data on a number line to show how often that number occurs. So my 6.5 occurred 3 times. All right. Let's say that Drake's pencil measured 5.5 instead of 5. There would be another X up here. Okay. So that's what a line plot is, and that's how you use a line plot. You're given information and you have to organize it based on a number line. Okay, so that is what we're going to be working on today, and I'm going to show you in a second what your math lesson is going to be. It's going to be called lesson 6-4, a nutty line plot. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see. Actually, I can present this probably. Okay, so here we are. Now, you're going to have to keep track of this. Okay, so let's go over this really quick. Cordelia sells pecans, or pecans, however you want to say it, by the pound at the Nutty Snack Shop. The table below shows today's orders. So there are some people who are ordering pounds of pecans, okay? These are going to be measured in 1/4 pounds. So it can go 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. You'll see I have the number line for you right here. Okay. Starts at 0. I've got 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. And then this is 1 pound, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, and then 2 pounds. So what you're going to do is you are going to move, and I'm going to have to get out of here to show you this, okay? But this is what yours is going to look like. You are going to take these X's, right? Because we use X's, and I'm actually going to take these off for you now, and I'm going to show you how to move them, okay? Now, you're going to have to keep track of what you already did. So if you want to go like this and write down on a separate piece of paper what you did, if you wanted to mark off what you did, so let me show you how you can do that. I'm going to look at this and I say I have 1 1/4, so I'm going to take an X. Now you're not going to want to pick it up when there's a big arrow, okay, because that's going to make your box bigger. What you want to do is you want to pick it up until you see that 4-way arrow. You see that? And you just have to sort of scroll over until you see that. Click, and you're going to bring that box to 1 1/4. There we are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my, should I do this? I mean, you can mark it if you wanted to. You know, you could just like put a text box here, right? And then just put a big X there if you wanted to know that you already did that, okay? Then I'm going to go to 1 1/2. So I'm going to pick up another X, and I'm going to look at my chart, and I know, oh, okay, 1 1/2. I'm going to put it right here. Wait until you see that little 4-way arrow, drag it over, and drop it, okay? Now I did this one. You don't have to mark these off if you don't want. I'm just doing it because, I don't know, just to keep track of what I'm doing, okay? The next one is 1/4. I'm going to take this, and all these X's are clickable, you see? Once you click on any of them, you'll be able to drag them, but don't drag them until you have that 4-way arrow. So I'm on 1/4, find my 4-way arrow, and I'm going to just plop it right there, okay? I'm going to mark that I did this one, put an X there, done, all right? And you are going to do the rest of these, see? And then you'll be able to see what your line plot is going to look like. Notice I have the title, Today's Pecan Orders, how many pounds, and then my X's are going to show me and graph what I sold most of or what Cordelia sold most of, okay? Then you're going to answer these questions using the data from this line plot. So you're going to tell me which order size was most popular. So you'll be able to show that based on how many X's you have on a certain weight, right? You're going to tell me which was least popular. You're going to tell me how many people ordered 1/4 pound. So you're going to go to 1/4 and you're going to tell me how many people, and you'll know because each X represents a person. And then you're going to tell me how many people ordered a 1/2 pound and 1 pound altogether. So you're going to look at your 1 pound and you're going to look at your 1/2 pound. And you're going to add however many X's you have up, and that will tell me how many people. Okay? That's going to be your activity today. And if you need help, just ask me, but I think you'll be great. This is pretty straightforward. We worked with graphs before. This is just a different type of graph called a line plot. All right, you guys are going to be great. Let me know if you need me. Bye.